Hi everyone, hope you are feeling positive and healthy. Please subscribe with all bell notifications if you haven't already, and please don't hesitate to leave your valuable feedback and advice below. Thank you very much. Let's jump into the stories. Am I the unreasonable one for laughing at my friend for becoming a single mother? Disclaimer: my mom was a single mother for most of my life and I in no way am implying there is something wrong with or shameful about being a single mother. I have this friend Olivia. We aren't really close, but we belong to the same large social circle, so we have a lot of mutual friends. We were having a Zoom party when she announced she was pregnant with her boyfriend of 1 year. No one in our friendship group has met this boyfriend, but we all gave her our congratulations and told her we'd love to meet the father when lockdown ends. Olivia got a really coy smile on her face and told us we all knew him already, but she would officially introduce us when the pandemic was over. A few days later a smaller group of us were chatting and my friend Emma mentioned that another couple, Tom and Sarah, in our group were most likely going to get a divorce soon. This small group consisted of all of my personally close friends, which would normally include Sarah. Emma told us, with Sarah's permission. It turned out Tom was Olivia's baby's dad, and when she made that comment during the Zoom call it confirmed Sarah's suspicion and she snooped and found evidence. According to Emma, Olivia intentionally got pregnant, poked holes in the condom, and only announced it when she was no longer eligible for an abortion to force Tom to leave Sarah for her. Tom has told Sarah that he has no plans to be a dad to the baby no matter what happens between them. At the next Zoom party, neither Tom nor Sarah were present. Olivia broke down crying. She told everyone her boyfriend got cold feet about being a dad and broke up with her, that she would now be forced to be a single mother and that she needed her friends more than ever. Everyone was giving her sympathy, including the friends who knew the truth. She started making plans on how we would all chip in to help her get things for the baby before it arrived. This is when I started laughing. She demanded to know what I found so funny and asked me if I was shaming her for being a single mother. We got in an argument which ended with me telling her she deserved to be a single mother and she made her bed so now she should lay in it. She started crying again and disconnected. Someone else explained the whole Sarah/Tom/Olivia affair to everyone present who had no idea. Our friendship group is split, half, whilst on Sarah's side, think we should still be sympathetic to Olivia too because she is going to be a single mom and would need us to be her support system. She has no family here and has a low income so will need financial help most likely. The other half think Olivia is a homewrecker and neither her nor Tom deserve any sympathy. Some people are now saying they will no longer attend events if Tom or Olivia are invited. Olivia's best friend called me a bitch for turning the group against her and said I was slut-shaming her, which I wasn't. Am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one. Olivia did make her bed. She's a manipulative liar, and while I really hope this isn't the case, she'll probably end up using the kid as a pawn in her games too. Tom is also a lying off for being a cheater and not stepping up to his responsibilities, but in the context of this post, OP is definitely not the unreasonable one. I would have laughed in her face, too. What a horrible woman to purposely get pregnant with a baby the dad didn't want and which she couldn't afford. Not to mention lying and having an affair for a year and then being coy while the wife was on a Zoom meeting. She deserves to laugh at and shunned. I feel bad for her b-day, though. And Tom should pay child support. Am I the unreasonable one for going to a male gynecologist? For a few months I've been getting really bad menstrual cramps that often last more than a week. I never used to get bad cramps and never for more than a day or two. So when I mentioned it to my mom she insisted on getting me into the doctor immediately since we've had a few family members with endometriosis. I'd never been to the gynecologist before, so I didn't have my usual doctor. Also my mom made the appointment. I didn't know who I was seeing until I showed up that day. The doctor was a middle-aged man who was completely professional, and there was a female nurse in the room with me the entire time so obviously nothing inappropriate would happen. Although I probably would have preferred a female doctor, it didn't end up bothering me that he was a guy. When I told my BF about the appointment and the doctor he flipped out. He told me that only he, my future husband, should ever see and feel my vagina. He basically spent at least 30 minutes berating and slut-shaming me for going to the doctor. I was really upset and hung up on him, and he's been calling and texting me non-stop since then. I talked to some of my girlfriends. I'm not allowed to have guy friends or I'd ask them, and they're split. Some of them say their boyfriends wouldn't like them having a male gynecologist. Others told me he's being extremely controlling and to dump his ass. So, am I the unreasonable one? Update: I broke up with him over text, which I feel is pretty immature, but I honestly don't want to talk to him. I feel like this is all a big wake-up call. And even if he isn't abusive, I don't want to live a life where I get yelled at or have to ask permission for everything. I also blocked his number and on all social media, so he doesn't blow up my phone. I told my mom and older brother what happened and they are really concerned for my safety, so I'm staying at my parents' house tonight and my older brother is staying at my apartment in case anything happens. Thank you all for your kind responses and support. There's a lot more stuff that I've been noticing over the weeks that have bothered me, and this red flag really hit me. I'd like to this that we just have different boundaries and a lot of it is faulty communication, but I'm terrified that perhaps he is abusive and this situation would have continued to escalate. Also, changed boyfriend to brother. My older brother stayed at my apartment. I don't have any exes. Update 2. Apparently he was really angry that I broke up with him so abruptly and did indeed show up at my apartment at around 2 a.m. My brother told me he stayed banging on the door for around 15 minutes screaming at me. He called the cops, but my BF left before they got there. My parents suggested to get a restraining order, and I think I'll try that, though I have no idea how that works or if the cops would even take me seriously. I feel extremely unsettled by all of this. Not the unreasonable one. He told me that only he, my future husband, should ever see and feel my vagina. Red flag. He basically spent at least 30 minutes berating and slut-shaming me for going to the doctor. Red flag. I was really upset and hung up on him, and he's been calling and texting me non-stop since then. Red flag. I'm not allowed to have guy friends. Red flag. Others told me he's being extremely controlling and to dump his ass. They're right. Not the unreasonable one. Dump him. Also, see a gynecologist regularly. Am I the unreasonable one for leaving my brother and his family homeless? Growing up, my 28 years old female brother, 33 years old male, was definitely the golden child of the family as my dad had always wanted a son and he was also the first grandchild. This meant that he had his college paid for in full whilst me and my sister, 31 years old female, had to take out loans/apply for scholarships. Our grandparents would always give him better gifts and he was the only grandkid to receive an inheritance from them. Our parents never made him do any chores and would fund whatever new hobby he wanted to try. Despite having everything paid for, my brother ended up dropping out in his third year after failing most of his classes. He has since worked only low-paying jobs and currently lives with our parents with his wife and son, 3 years old. My parents are planning to retire next year and will be downsizing their house so they can afford to. My brother now has to either 1. Move in with another family member, i.e. me or my sister, or 2. Rent his own place for the first time ever. My sister is completely no contact with our parents, so they asked me to let them move in with me and my fiancé as we have the space. There is no way I'm going to let this happen. For one, my brother and his wife are both incredibly lazy and do no housework despite my sister-in-law not working and being home all of the time. Second, my nephew is a mini version of my brother and completely spoilt and undisciplined. When I told my parents no, they suggested, i.e. demanded, I help my brother get his own place by offering to be the guarantor. He can't get his own place without one. Their logic is that me and my fiancé could afford the risk, but it's not one I want to take. My brother has since phoned me multiple times demanding why I feel okay with leaving his family homeless and if I think I don't need them anymore because I have a BTCH boy fiancé. My parents are also giving me the silent treatment and I'm starting to feel guilty. I could technically afford to be the guarantor, but I don't have much faith in my brother to pay the rent. He's horrible with money and has never had to worry about bills or rent before, so I feel like he'll keep living the way he currently does and just expect me to bail him out. I explained the situation to my sister, and she found it hilarious and said he was finally going to have to be an adult like the rest of us. I do feel bad because if I don't help, my parents probably won't be able to retire and they're getting old. AITA. Not the unreasonable one. Sorry you're in this position, but you have to take care of yourself, and as your sister told you, let your brother be an adult. Not the unreasonable one. Don't set yourself on fire to keep him warm. Am I the unreasonable one for demanding an apology from my daughter's boyfriend before allowing him back into my house? In 1998, my daughter Cindy was born to my then high school girlfriend and I. We were both born in 1982, so we were exactly 16 when she was born. There was a lot of complications and sadly, Cindy's mother died in childbirth. This was devastating for a number of reasons, but mainly because my daughter lost her mom. I lost the girl I loved and that an innocent girl with her whole life ahead of her died. It was hard, but I took on the role of single dad and tried my best. Fast forward to now, Cindy is 22 and I am 38. We have a good relationship and I know she loves me, but she is very hesitant to tell people my real age. She doesn't hate the fact I was a teenager when I was born, but she doesn't actively broadcast it. She's even told people I'm her older brother before, as she just doesn't want to be judged for having such a young dad. I'll admit this hurts a little, but I can understand why she's maybe a little embarrassed. There's not a big age difference between us. I've also told her that whilst I don't regret having her, I would in no way preach being a teen parent. It is what it is regarding her attitude, I guess, so I've just learned to accept it. Anyway, Cindy's boyfriend was round the other day. I've met him plenty of times, and in accordance with Cindy's wishes, he doesn't know my real age. From what she mentioned, she told him her mom wasn't around and that we'd been young when he was born. I guess the BF maybe just assumed I was early 40s and just looked slightly youthful. When he was at the bathroom, Cindy and I were talking about her mom and our ages, and he happened to overhear it. I ended up confirming I am 38 and he seemed surprised. I was expecting that, but I wasn't expecting the next bit. He basically went on a few minutes rant saying how selfish and irresponsible I was getting someone pregnant so young, and that my dead girlfriend had every right to bail instead of being stuck with child, and that it's embarrassing that my daughter has to lie about my age cause of how young I still am. I won't repeat them, but he made a few other demeaning comments aimed at people who have kids young and tore the living crap out of Cindy's mother. It seems she hasn't mentioned she is dead, and I told the BF he had no right disrespecting a dead woman's name or anyone's choice to have a child so young. I told him to get the hell out of my house and not to bother coming back if he couldn't be civil. It's been a few days and Cindy is claiming her boyfriend is merely uneducated and was an idiot and didn't realize her mother was dead. He apparently regrets his words, and I'm not entirely convinced, as he said some horrible things about me and, more importantly, a dead person. I told Cindy reluctantly I'll let him back in the house, but I'm demanding he apologizes. She says this is unfair and is calling me an Also, I'd why Cindy is so uncomfortable about my age, but I realize now that's really weird and I'm gonna question her about it. I also find it strange that when she has told people her mother is dead, it isn't until years later. I think there's a lot more to this. Not the unreasonable one. He was way out of line. Honestly, when I read the title I thought I would go the other way, then I read the post. I think that you are being reasonable, as you will let him back in the house, so long as he meets you halfway. She says he regrets his words? Let him tell you that. If he won't apologize, then that was her lying for him, to try and get you to relent. Not the unreasonable one. Wow, I wouldn't let that a-hole back in my house no matter how much he apologized. Am I the unreasonable one for refusing to sell back the portion of the property I bought out from my sister? I, 32 years old female, and sister, 35 years old female, inherited this apartment from our grandmother. We owned it 50-50. It wasn't in a very nice part of town, a bit run down. When I was 28, my sister ran into a bit of financial trouble. I helped her as much as I could, but it just wasn't feasible for me to keep giving her cash in the long term. Her credit was shot, so she couldn't get a loan either. I ended up buying out her share of the apartment, at market rate. I got the apartment, and her financial troubles were eased. In the past 4 years, that neighborhood has gone through a lot of changes. Increased government funding, better schools, etc. has made crime go down and driven property prices up. So, the value of the apartment has risen substantially, compared to when I bought her out. This has created a lot of conflict in our relationship. She wants me to either pay her the difference between what I paid her for the apartment back then and its value now, or B, let her buy back 50%, but at the price I bought her out 4 years ago, or C, pay her half of the rent I get from tenants. I refused. I don't want to go through that again. Due to COVID, the government is paying me my rent so that tenants don't have to pay and landlords can continue to pay their mortgages. We've been bickering back and forth over it, and it's honestly very exhausting. Not the unreasonable one. If she had sold it to a stranger, would she expect the same options now? Not the unreasonable one. Ask her if the value of the property had gone down, if she would have refunded you the portion you lost. Am I the unreasonable one for refusing to let my stepsister move in with me and potentially causing her to drop out of school? Me and my stepsister are the same age and go to different schools, but in the same city. I currently live in a one-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend and she lives with a group of her friends. It turns out my stepsister has had some drama with her friends, to do with one of their boyfriends, and they no longer want to live with her next year. They've now decided to find a smaller apartment without my stepsister. My stepsister doesn't know anyone else in the city and refuses to live with strangers. She explained the situation to our parents and my mom called me up and suggested me and her find a place together next year. I told her no and she got angry and started demanding I live with her. She threatened to cut me off, and when I pointed out she was giving me no financial assistance and the person they were sending money to monthly was stepsister, she got angry and hung up. She has since sent me texts trying to guilt trip me into changing my mind. My stepdad has even been in contact to beg me to live with her and even offered to give me a monthly allowance if I do. He claims that stepsister is threatening to drop out if I don't live with her because she can't deal with living with strangers. I told him I was sorry, but I liked living with my boyfriend and my parents have since been suggesting I let her move in with us. I don't want to live with her for several reasons. 1. My boyfriend covers most of the household bills including rent. I don't get financial help from my family and would need to take out even more loans or work more shifts if I was to live with my stepsister to cover the costs. 2. I hated living with my stepsister when we were growing up. She's dirty, lazy and would expect me to do all the cooking and cleaning. 3. Our schools are in the same city, but far enough apart that one of us would have a lengthy commute. If she had her way, I would be the one who has to do it, which means even more money wasted. I currently live within walking distance of my campus. I do feel bad for our parents though because they already had to really push to get her to even go to college and now, she's going to just drop out after all of the money they've already spent on her education. My stepsister even called me crying and said she doesn't want to drop out, but her anxiety is so bad she can't live with strangers. I don't know if she actually has anxiety or not. Am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one. Stand your ground. Their loss if they choose to cut you off. If your stepdad is so willing to pay you an allowance, why doesn't he just take that money and get her own appointment where she won't have to live with strangers? Win-win. Not the unreasonable one. If your stepsister doesn't want to live with strangers, then she needs to figure out how to stretch her budget to afford a place of her own, or see if mom and stepdad will take her in while she works on her anxiety so she eventually can live independently. This isn't your problem to solve, and your family is 100% in the wrong for trying to force it on you because you're easier to deal with than she is. Tell them the subject is closed, and stop taking their calls if they won't let it go. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.